Joining me now to discuss all that has gone on there, political commentator Michael Reagan. Michael, we welcome you back to America's Forum.
Yeah, welcome me back to America. I was in Russia last week.
Wow, we're going to have to get into that, Michael, to hear about what you saw in today's Russia. But first to Ferguson, Missouri, as you've come back home and been greeted with all the controversy therein and what we've seen, including a statement from the President of the United States. This morning we get news that the police in Ferguson have disclosed the officer's name. Is that a good thing?
Yeah, I don't think it's that good of a thing because of the violence that's going on there, the death threats that will now come. Remember, what was it, yesterday, the day before, they released the wrong name, and death threats were leveled against that police officer. It was the wrong police officer. Now they have the right police officer, and of course their family now is going to be cowering in their own homes, worried about death threats coming at them. But I was thinking about this as you were kind of setting this up, and I think to myself, how do these things happen? And we need to look really at the media, because when was the last time anybody watching this show or watching the news at night really turned on the news and saw good news about black people? If it bleeds, it leads. And so most people sit in their homes at night and they see nothing but stories about blacks killing blacks, Hispanics killing Hispanics, gangs killing gang members. And so there is this fear. I mean, what was it? How many years ago was it that one of those black leaders, Jesse Jackson, said when he's walking down the streets in Washington, D.C. at night and he hears footsteps behind him, he hopes that person is a white person? Because this is what we see on the news 24 hours a day. And that's what's sad. And black America needs to stand up against news and say, wait a minute, start telling stories about good blacks, showing good blacks on TV, the great things that we've done, instead of always showing the black gang members and the violence that is going on within the black community.
Well, as that continues, obviously a story also develops. And when you have this situation, someone used the term the fog of war. And there are new developments coming out now. For example, reports that Michael Brown unfortunately matched the description of a man in a strong-armed robbery in Ferguson, that robbery occurring minutes before the fatal shooting. So you have that added to the story. Obviously now there will be a review, and we will see what happens in terms of moving toward charges being filed or what will transpire. The Department of Justice, Eric Holder, stepping in.
We see that, J.D.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, we see that, J.D., but how many black children, 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, were killed last week in Chicago? I mean, the President of the United States comes from Chicago, and we never see a story about what we need to be doing in the Chicago area, where 2 out of 3 children born in the black community are born illegitimately. I mean, out of wedlock. 1 out of 3 Hispanics out of wedlock. We've taken the fathers out of the home absolutely, completely in America today. There's no leadership in the home. There's nothing going on. We approve fathers not being at the home at the government level. And we have this going on in Chicago, but yet we're not having a talk about Chicago. Do we not care about the 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old children being murdered every single day and every single weekend in Chicago? We only care about the Michael Brown, and we only care about Trayvon Martin. We only care about the ones that make the news, but don't care about a damn about those that die every weekend in Chicago, and that's unfortunate.
You mentioned Chicago, and in another vein, when Mr. Obama became president and there were still casualties in Iraq, rather than being described as American troops, they were described as NATO forces. In terms of making the news, has the national media decided to suppress the daily and weekly occurrences, the horrible, violent that goes on in Chicago in a weird way to try to help this president?
I mean, basically, I don't know if it's to help the president, but I mean, I will tell you this: they certainly suppress it. You have to search out the numbers. I ask everybody right now, Google homicides in Chicago, August 2014. And look at how many died last weekend and what color they were. It's interesting. It's okay to kill blacks in Chicago, but it's not okay to kill a black in Ferguson, Missouri. Now, come on. Where's Jesse Jackson? Where's Al Sharpton? Where's the President of the United States? And they do suppress it. The one thing they don't suppress, the news media, they certainly can tell you the name of every Palestinian child that died at the hands of Israel. They sure give us that count every single day, don't they?
Well, this is part and parcel of the agenda-setting function of the media, even though there are more outlets now. And obviously, we're having a very honest, unvarnished discussion about the situation here on Newsmax TV. There certainly seems to be an orthodoxy to the approach of other organizations. And as we like to point out time and again, we're not the media, we're Newsmax, so we offer a different take. Let me turn to another subject, and then we're going to invite you to stay with us following the break for some other topics. But, Michael, you just mentioned you're back from Russia. What is your take? Obviously, Vladimir Putin manipulates the media in rather transparent fashion there in the, quote, new Russia. Is the new Russia, in essence, the old Soviet Union?
No, it's not the old Soviet Union, maybe the leadership of Vladimir Putin. But you got to understand, Vladimir Putin is well liked in Russia because in reality, he's the only honest leader today in the world. And people follow people who lead. And if you're not leading, nobody's following you. Look at Obama. I mean, the fact that he's dropped down to, what, 30, 40% in the polls, not leading. Nobody's following. But people are following Vladimir Putin. They like the stand that he takes in Russia. Now, the old guard and the new guard are a little bit different. The young people out there are very worried about the sanctions because it could very well hurt them. The old guard is not so much worried. They're more in applause for Vladimir Putin at this time. But, you know, there is some concern there about the sanctions that are going to be leveled against them. But at the same time, there's applause for Vladimir Putin. They just started selling his T-shirts the other day with his face on the T-shirts. They're going like hotcakes there. But again, he is leading, and people will follow leaders.
It has also been said of Russia, despite whatever form of government, from the czars to their brief experience with democracy to the communist revolution of 1917, Russians always yearn for the strong man. Is that true in your evaluation of that society?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And that's what Vladimir Putin offers, that strong man, the guy without the shirt on, you know, the guy that has, you know, the muscular body. This is what they, in fact, yearn for. They yearn for that kind of leadership. You've got to understand, as we were talking to young people there, as I was, you know, Russia, freedom-wise, is only, what, 23 years old? I mean, 23 years ago, they were, you know, under, you know, the Russians in the Soviet Union. Now it's Russia. So they're just learning to be free. Listen, America, we're still trying to learn how to be free. They're only 23 years old, so there's a lot of work to do. But again, they're not seeing leadership from America. So there's no way to learn how we do it. They can only learn the way Vladimir Putin does it.
Michael Reagan, we'll have to leave it right there for now. We're going to ask you to hang in with us during this next break, because when we come back, we want to talk about growing up in the shadow of Hollywood, especially dealing with what transpired this week, the tragic news about Robin Williams, the implications of his passing for his family. We'll hear from others as well. Peter Ford, James Herson, and Michael Reagan on the other side of this break. Please stay with us here on America's Forum.